And interestingly, government also inaugurated a 10,000 kilometer fiber optic connection between India and Andamans, and they are planning to lay the same thing with Lakshadweep. Now, why are Lakshadweep and Andamans very critical to India? Both of them are on the international navigational sea lane, and Andaman is very crucial because you have the 10-degree channel through which the lot of our international shipping passes through Malacca Straits. The edge of the Andamans is very close to that this thing, and having an internet connectivity not only increases your national security, it also gives you a possibility for that to become an economic hub in itself. And these were always so separated from the country. Like people in Andamans, I used to stay in Andamans for some time, they used to say that I'm going to India without realizing that they are part of India. Now things have changed and they say that I'm going to mainland. So that's a way, so there is an integration. See, one of the easiest ways to integrate today when you are staying so far is by having a digital connect, because it actually brings down the connections. And then the future of e-commerce is going to be the rural market when you have this laid down. Government has also taken the concept of Andamans a step further. Sometime back they had completely put a lot of solar panels and made the daytime power completely available from the solar panel, because Andamans all the power was generated by fossil fuels. You had huge diesel gen sets. Now by bringing in the solar panels, they made the entire power available during daytime to be available from a renewable source. Now they are actually putting a proposal to invest 10,000 crores and put up a huge international transshipment port. Now, it makes a lot of sense to have transshipment port in Andamans, because our nearest transshipment hub has been Colombo. When you put up a transshipment hub in Andamans, because it is in the international navigational lane, transshipment to countries like Burma, Bangladesh, the entire east coast of India for goods originating from the eastern side or from the west of US can actually get transshipped in Andamans and then can get distributed through the west of Southeast Asia and the east of Indian peninsula. Now, why is this so critical? Because the moment you have a lot of infrastructure coming, the security increases. Number one, there's going to be a lot of job opportunities going to be created over there, and India's hold over the you have a marine economic activity that is possible in and around that gets strengthened. So the strategy of Andaman will be very beautifully leveraged, and that's going to be good for our country. While all of us have been complaining about during the COVID times that the railways is not operating the train and all these things, you should also realize that railways during this period has done some extraordinary work. They have taken up a lot of maintenance work, they have taken up a lot of demolition work, which they were never able to do because the passenger trains were running in the key areas at every 10-15 minutes gap. Then a lot of interlocking challenges which they were all been able to overcome. A lot of the bridges where ultrasonic testing were done and the girders were replaced and the old rail tracks were replayed. A whole lot of safety related mechanisms have always been going on during this lockdown period. But what is also making it very interesting is the business strategy of railways suddenly seems to have changed to generating more revenue through transport or freight, which is what its primary money churner. The passenger service has always been more demanding with respect to facilities, but also been paying less because we also have this habit of giving subsidy to people. But what has been very interesting is Railway has understood this. They have set up a lot of strategic business units in each division, which will go out, meet customers and ask for freight to be bought in, which means, and it's going to be good for the country because waterways is the cheapest mode of transport, and most developed countries have always used waterways to transport heavy goods so that the cost of transportation is brought down. And the next cheapest mode is railways, and roadways are always the costliest. They are also accident prone and they also create a lot of traffic in the highways. So railways is a very effective way, and we have a very large network, but we have never been able to prioritize freight movement over the passenger movement. Now during this period, when the passenger trains have been closed, railway has extensively taken to transportation of freight, including milk special trains and super anaconda trains and all these things. But they have announced recently two major dedicated freight corridors to be implemented in the upcoming days. This is apart from the two corridors which are already on the process, and I think by 2021 end or 22 you should be having the first 2 corridors delivered. So Railways has announced that there is going to be an East Coast corridor which will start in Kharagpur and end at Vijayawada, which will be a 1115 kilometer dedicated freight corridor. So you're going to have a corridor which is going to be dedicated only for the freight, and there's going to be another 1673 kilometers east-west corridor which will start in Bhusawal and end in Dankuni. Dankuni is in West Bengal and Bhusawal is in Maharashtra. And then you're going to have a this thing of 975 kilometers, which is once again going to start in Itarsi, Madhya Pradesh to Vijayawada. And what is this going to do? Why is this significant? Because we already know there is a concept of connecting a Sagarmala project which government has been talking, which is going to have a series of ports and using waterways as a means to bring down the cost. Now this particular dedicated freight corridors will connect the following ports, which is it will connect Paradeep, it will connect Dhamra, it will connect Gopalpur, all these 3 things are Orissa, and then it will connect Vizag, Gangavaram, Kakinada, Machilipatnam and Krishnapatnam ports, which are going to be in Andhra Pradesh. And this connection to all these ports with a dedicated freight corridor is going to ensure 2 things. One, as I said, it's going to bring down the cost of transportation. Number 2, it is going to increase the speed of transportation. Because it's dedicated, you don't have to wait for the passenger trains to come, which means the corporates and the companies are going to have a reliable time frame based delivery possible for them. We already have 2, as I said before, 2 dedicated freight corridors which are in motion, which is Ludhiana to Dankuni and Dadri to JNPT, Jawaharlal Nehru Port Trust in Mumbai. And another very interesting thing, which is a follow-up of some of the announcement that the government did, which is with respect to agriculture reforms. Future and options trading has been allowed for rice, wheat and castor. Now, castor oil is a major cooking medium for the North Indians, and rice and wheat once again are the primary source of carbohydrates for almost whole of India. Now, what does a future means? Allowing a futures and options trading means the price volatility can come down, and there can be a certainty to the price. When the farmer knows that a 6 months delivery is going to be trading at this price, he can pre-book his entire crop during that period. So all these things are going to deepen the possibility of sustenance and reliability for farming operations, and this will also progressively lead to warehouse beginning to buy the produce directly from farmers. It has already started happening once the mandis have been dismantled. Already a lot of warehouses and food chain companies have been able to buy it directly from farmers. This whole setup is going to get deepened, and we can see that already the prices in Punjab, UP and Haryana for some of the crops are higher than the MSP, which is the minimum support price offered by the government. So some of these processes are going to be very, very good for us, and the concept of doubling the farm income, I think the process has got set in motion. And Ladakh has been identified as another area where we will have a completely carbon neutral situation. Sikkim was the first state where the government already tried it, and they have been fairly successful. So there are going to be around 7,500 megawatt of solar power plant going to be put up in Ladakh. Now Ladakh is where we had a couple of wars, which is the Kargil and other wars, and then it is a desert. Actually, it's a cold desert, so that's going to be sustain a good power grid system over there. And both wind energy and solar projects are coming up, which means Ladakh can actually over a period of time have a lot of industries and even domestic electrics supplied to them constantly. Another interesting development in the state of Jammu and Kashmir is that you're going to have a third link road to Ladakh. So we already have, this is going to be from Manali to Leh, and it's going to save around 3 to 4 hours of journey time. And we know the strategic importance of Ladakh now. You have on one side, the Pakistani occupied Kashmir, and they are looking down upon you. And the Chinese are trying to reach the old Daulat Old Begi airport, because passing through that will help them to connect with the Karakoram highway in a much faster way. And so with a lot of the strategic importance, we had just 2 roads connecting this, and that it was considerably slowing down the troop movement and also the heavy machinery movement. So this third road is the advantage of this third road is that it is going to not only cut down the journey time, it is also going to ensure that Pakistan and the other advisory, China, will not be able to monitor the movement of vehicles in this road. The existing two roads are having the challenge of being monitored by these things. Of course, you can always monitor it from satellite, but at least from the higher positions, you will not be higher ranges. You will not be able to do. Work has already started, and the road will exactly end where the PM recently visited the Jawans. Very interesting development. I think this is something it is completely gone unnoticed. Electronic payment is on the upswing. Now, this is not rocket science, because after our demonetization, the electronic payment got a fillip. But there are a couple of things which completely went unnoticed. For the first time in Q4 2019, that is October, November, December, the fourth quarter of 2019, the value of card and mobile payments in India was 10.57 lakh crores, which exceeded the ATM withdrawal amount of 9.12 lakhs. For the first time in India, the payment from card and mobile payments exceeded the amount of money withdrawn from ATM payment, which means slowly people are shifting away from using cash to digital. And here comes the other thing. In quarter 1 2020, which is Jan, Feb, March, the card and mobile payments were 10.97 lakh crore, and ATM withdrawals declined by 5% to 8.66 lakh crores. So it is very clearly established people are using a digital payment mode to buy their goods and services. Now here comes the next very interesting data. UPI payment has crossed the total card payments. So in December 2019, UPI, which is a unified payment interface, which you use the PMAP or the Paytm or your Google Pay, any one of these Phone Pay, any one of these UPI payments, that was 2 lakh crores value of transaction versus card payment of 1.5 lakh crores. And by May 2020, the UPI transaction was 2.18 lakh crores versus 80,300 rupees for card payments. Now there are two significantly important conclusions which we can all come to, and I think the trade has to watch it. Number one, when we are moving away, both are digital payment, but why is this significant? The moment you are moving away from card payments, which means people are paying from the money they have it in their pocket. Credit cards were predominantly, you had an option to settle your bills later, whereas in a UPI it moves predominantly out of your bank. There are a few UPIs which also, like Paytm, allows you to transfer money from your card, but predominantly it's a bank-to-bank transaction, which means people are paying from the money that they have. So the buying patterns and the payment patterns is changing. So any retail or anyone in the business, now if you don't have an access for people to pay you through the website online, or if you don't have a shop where you can collect payment through online, your business is going to be in question. So it's very important that we adapt, because it's also bringing down the cost of operations, because UPI payments, banks are not charging anything so far. I think there are some proposals for certain banks to do some charges, and even for the receiving person, we have to see the retail trade has to think whether they can give an additional discount to people who are paying through UPI, because he is not being charged anything, whereas when there's a card payment, you are either being charged somewhere between 1 to 2.5%. So if as a country we are able to move more towards digital payment, RBI is going to print less money, no one is going to steal money from you, the currency circulation will come down, which means you don't have to have huge infrastructure to maintain ATM, security, blah blah and all those things, which means your money is secure, and the person who is receiving it is going to get it immediately. The credit cycles for people is going to come down. It's going to be a win-win situation, because all transaction gets accounted and government will be able to expand its tax base. And already government has taken a proactive step of reducing the corporate tax rate. So now the tax base expansion can happen only when all transactions are legal and it is digital. So digital is a way forward for all of us to really embrace. I'm really requesting people to take it to a greater level, because it's going to bring in a lot more accountability and ease of operation.